Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Today I'll be discussing whether Khalitzburg is worth buying and evaluating her against 12 different factors so you get a better idea of how good she is. She was insane when I tried her out in the beta server, so when she was released on global, this was an easy buy for me. But would I actually use her over some other meta DPS classes? Stay tuned to find out. Also, fantastic news, I have codes to give away. I have 10 C, 5 global, and 5 EU codes. In the comments say, what are your thoughts on Khalitzburg? Please include your Discord ID and which server you play on, such as C, Global, or EU, and winners will get codes July 2nd, 2024. With that, let's begin. Number 1 is damage frequency. Her skill, Memory of Petals, is the skill you'll use most often. It has a low skill cooldown and does high damage at 0.5 second intervals for 3 seconds. You can also have 3 gales at a time. Furthermore, when you're at level 4 core hero passive, when you pick up a rose, you can use Memory of Petals once at its location for even more damage. You can see against the PSR dragon that there's lots of continuous DPS as I cast Memory of Petals and pick up the roses. So for damage frequency, it is absolutely ideal and one of her biggest selling points. Next for number 2 is burst damage. I'd rate her as good. You have some short-term bursts which you can use to deal with things like the Rook, but her damage is nowhere near that of Heinrich or Saitama, which are better suited for boss hunting, and you should use those classes instead of her if you really enjoy boss hunting. It's not to say you can't use her for boss hunting. Here I am taking down Poitata pretty quickly, but you'd likely lose to a Saitama if there was one around. Next for number 3 is survivability. I'd say she's good as she has lots of damage reductions. For example, War of Rose lets rose petals debuff enemies so they deal 30% less damage. Next, Mirror Flower also reduces the range physical damage and magic damage received by 30% for teammates and double for you. Next, Night of Glory and its passive also gives elemental reductions and some life gain. Ideally, survivability would be damage immunity or anti-death, which she doesn't have, but what she has is still pretty good. If you want to increase your survivability further, you could definitely use the War Preparedness Rune for the HP shield, and also the tier 5 50% progress skeleton bracer to have anti-fatal when at 90% HP. Next for number 4 is damage scalability. She is ideal since her attacks have high damage outputs already. She has curse that is influenced by Agi up to 300%, and her damage increased if the target is bleeding or cursed by 30%. I'd say she scales better against monsters that can be inflicted with statuses, such as those in White Star Airship or Oracle Dungeon, and those are the instances where she'll truly shine. Next for number 5, hitting critical stats. Khalitzburg's skills and weapons give a lot of critical stats. In legend instances, ideally you'd have 200% ignore defense, 70% penetration, and 50% skill damage. Blossom Tea provides 1% ignore defense for every 1% physical pierce, also known as penetration, that makes it super easy to hit the 200% ignore defense. Also, Flower of Desperation gives 30% penetration and skill damage, which helps a ton. Her weapon also gives 1% penetration for every refine, so that's another great source of penetration. From Acer Monument, you also get 16% ignore defense and 10% penetration here. So of all the classes I built, this is the easiest class to hit all the critical stats. I'll show my gear overview with the stats it gives later on in the video. Next for number 6 is convertible damage. All of Khalitzburg's skills can be converted, which is fantastic, so you can take advantage of the elemental weakness of your target. Next for number 7 is range. Her range is good. Her primary spammable skill has a range of 4. I consider anything within the 4 to 6 range to be good. Although she does have Whispered Rose with a 12 meter range, the 24 second cooldown is a bit too long. Next for number 8 is utility. For DPS, she has some of the best party buffs and enemy debuffs in the game. If you want a class that is useful in White Star Airship, she's the one. I love that she has heavy damage reductions for yourself and your team, and you can also boost your damage for yourself and your teammates as well. So without a doubt, I'd mark her as an ideal one for utility. Next for number 9 is AoE. She has very nice AoE options with a minimum of 4 meter range. She's ideal for taking out mobs in Oracle Dungeon and White Star Airship. Next for number 10 is ease of use. She's definitely ideal, she's really easy to use. Inside my Prepare for Elite, I have Flower of Desperation, Night of Glory, and Incarnation of Rose. I put that on auto with Memory of Petals and Echo of Petals. I use Wish Flower if I need burst, Echo of Petals to drop petals before a fight, and Whisper of Rose if I need a big AoE. A lot of times you're just going on auto and picking up rose petals, which is pretty easy to do. Same with attributes, it's pretty easy to allocate. You can max agi, strength, and remaining into vit, or if you need more vit, you can take away some from strength and reallocate like that. She's not a class where you have to balance a lot of stats across multiple attributes, so she's pretty straightforward. Next for Advanced Runes, go for all these second lines to get to 7/7 core hero passive, then for the minor runes just go for ones that give damage. For the arcane runes, I use White Blade for killing a single target like a boss, or Preparedness Rune for self-shield, and Disaster Runes for dealing more damage. Next for number 11 is Ease of Gearing Up. Since Ignored Defense is easy to get, you have lots of flexibility for your armor and offhand. Sometimes if you lack morale and chance, you'll need to sacrifice some damage for Ignored Defense, but luckily she doesn't need to. Also for more elemental damage, you can swap in the elemental damaging armor, which is very convenient. I also had bad luck getting morale and chance for face and back items, so luckily I can use the meta gachas, whereas other classes I need to use the ones I have morale 2 and chance on, so I sacrifice some damage. Next, here's my shadow equipment, Oracle Mirror and Relic. With this gear, I have 101.6% penetration, 55.5% skill damage, and 238.7% ignore defense. As I said before, this is one of the classes that most easily hits the critical stats. Next for number 12 is free to play friendly. Since she can be bought with a job change voucher, she's very free to play friendly. I also like that her ignore defense is very easy to get, so you have lots of flexibility for gearing up. She also has very high damage modifiers, so she's quite powerful even at lower deposits. Even if your damage isn't very high, your team buffs and enemy debuffs are so powerful that you'll definitely help out a party. I think she's absolutely a must-buy for free-to-play players looking for a strong physical DPS class that will also be accepted into parties. Overall, she's a fantastic class for Ragnarok Mobile. She's scored good to ideal for every factor, and I'll definitely be using her in White Star Airship. That's the instance I think she shines the most and provides great buffs for everyone else. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed playing Khalitzburg. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's the video that I recommend, and if you want more Khalitzburg content, check out this playlist over here.